Chat GPT creator tells Congress AI's effect on society will be like Photoshop on steroids. Is this just all hype talking about AI and we have nothing to worry about? Or is there something more nefarious going on underneath? Let's go ahead and jump into this together. I think this is going to be really interesting to talk about as we continue to break down all the news with AI going on today. OpenAI CEO Sam Altman made his congressional debut before a Senate Judiciary subcommittee today. Can't talk, sorry. He rolled out the charm offensive to try and convince lawmakers to pursue light-handed legislation that gives artificial intelligence companies' product ChatGPT, first among them, a wide runway to rapidly advance. Altman's rosy testimony expounded on the societal virtues of generative AI, ran counter to other expert witnesses who expressed more skepticism and brought up discrimination and other unintended AI harms. Altman said of the public's understanding of ChatGPT and text-generating AI, for a while people were fooled by Photoshop, then they quickly developed an understanding around altered images. This will be like that, but on steroids. I think it's easy to say that at this stage. I think it's easy to say that, yeah, like when you watch some of these videos that are, saying, AI generated pizza commercial and all these random things that are coming out right now, it's very clear and easy to see these photos and see all this stuff and say, oh, wow, look how there's weird amounts of fingers and teeth, and you can see that it's AI generated. It's easy to tell. But as the technology progresses, as things continue to do better, and you see like people like Joe Rogan who's getting his voice stolen and used in different things, and there's certain content that's been created by AI that you really can't tell the difference to the naked eye. There are more people on the planet who do not understand how AI works and how it operates than there are people that do. And this is really where the basis of this argument, the crux of this argument actually exists, because we currently live in a society where there still is a large amount of people that don't fully understand that all the information and all of the news and all of the data that you're getting from social media can't be fully trusted. And it still sways certain amounts of the public in a direction and in a way that it could really have a massive effect on important things such as elections. I mean, that has already been proven to be the case. And let me just explain this to you. If you think that that's all hype, then why would the government be going and knocking on Mark Zuckerberg's door to talk to him? They wouldn't even be talking to him if it was all hype. They wouldn't even be talking to him if it wasn't real. They wouldn't even bother with the conversation. But it is happening. It's very real, and we're dealing with it, and we're still trying to balance this out. So obviously, he has his agenda. He's trying to make it easier for his company to continue to do what they're doing. At the same time, he's trying to acknowledge that, yeah, there are dangers to what he's doing, but he doesn't want the government to get in the way. And I don't think he has anything to worry about, to be honest. As I read through this article, I haven't watched the video, so I'm not sure. Obviously this is leaning more towards being very anti, the AI and what he's doing, and I don't want to be swayed by that. I do have a bias, but I do use it. I do use ChatGPT. It's very effective. It is a very effective tool. I think it is a very good tool that a lot of positivity, a lot of positive things could come from it. But I think people need to be educated on what it is and how it works. And it's not a true form of AI, meaning it is not formulating ideas based on its own thoughts and opinions. There's programming behind it, and they very easily have altered the programming to where it doesn't tell you certain things. And so that could tell you that if they can do that, then that means that there is human bias programmed into it. You understand? Like, if they can program it to answer and respond to certain prompts in a certain way, and obviously it's horrible prompts, it's things that should be responded to in a certain way, then that means, though, that bias can be programmed into it, and it's not true AI like you see in the movies, like you see in science fiction movies. So that's something that you want to be attentive to and understand that just like you would use Google and you would Google something, but you would be very cautious about what you read on there, where it's coming from, what the source is, what it's saying, and test that. I feel like that needs to be the same thing with this tool. Lawmakers questioning Altman on Tuesday said the stakes were dire. In his opening statement, Missouri Senator Josh Hawley, I don't even know if I'm saying that right, I don't really care. AI could go one of two routes: a new printing press or an atomic bomb. We could be looking at one of the most important technological innovations in human history, he said, or she said, I don't know. He said, it's really like the invention of the internet at scale, at least. The hearing came during a crucial inflection point for large language models like ChatGPT, with lawmakers and regulators publicly struggling to stay a step ahead of the rapidly evolving tech. That statement is a joke. Stay a step ahead. It's not going to happen. You read through this article and you can clearly see that this is a dog and pony show. Like they're not able to keep up with this. These tech guys know this. This is parading. There's nothing that's going to be effective that comes out of this. Nothing's going to happen from this. It's just literally trying to show you, like, look, we're your local government here. We're going to we're doing something about this, and nothing's being done, because in all honesty, what can you do? What can you do? What are you going to do? You're going to regulate this thing to the point where they can't do anything with it? I mean, later on in the article, they talk about how they potentially like the idea of creating a government entity that's going to oversee and overwatch potential AI and institute regulations around it. It's like, okay, we'll see. Just like you did with Mark Zuckerberg when you dragged him out into the public and paraded him out and talked to him. And you should see the clips. You can still watch the clips of what the questions that were asked of him. It's like these people are so far behind and they lack any understanding of how anything works. And it's so evidently clear that I'm surprised that Mark Zuckerberg didn't just crack up laughing in their face at some of the questions they were asking him. And, that lends to show you all the memes where they're talking about he's a robot. So, Sam Altman supports regulation of ChatGPT and AI at large, so long as it's his preferred type of legislation. Major tech executives over the years have learned it's a fool's errand to dig in their heels and vocally oppose any sign of regulation. Instead, the more common playbook, which Altman followed, is to advocate in favor of their preferred type of legislation. On Tuesday, Altman told lawmakers that regulation of AI is essential, but that such regulation should balance safety against ensuring wide access of the tech to the general public. ChatGPT, which debuted in November, has already amassed 100 million users, according to OpenAI. During the testimony, Altman recommended lawmakers pursue new sets of safety requirements that could test products before they are released. Altman suggested new testing and licensing requirements for AI developers could help set a level playing field for competition. The CEO appeared open to a recommendation by Senator Blumenthal and others to consider a nutrition label for AI and other transparency proposals, but caveated that by saying he still believes the benefits of AI outweigh the risks. Safety requirements, according to Altman, will need to be flexible enough to adapt to potentially unforeseen new advances in the tech. We think that regulatory intervention of governments will be crucial, Altman said. Yeah, this guy knows nothing's going to happen. I mean, he knows that. He's not an idiot, clearly, and he knows what he's doing. And neither, and like I said, what are you going to do? I mean, maybe I'm being too reactionary here. I mean, you guys tell me in the comment section below, is there anything you could do? I mean, if you regulate it to the point where you hinder it so much, the public response is going to be outrageous against it. And then you're crossing over into, different ideologies as far as like too much regulation and too much government intervention. And then the other side of that coin now is you've got something like social media that has had a drastic effect on the culture, on the way we process information, on our source of information, and in a population that's not ready. I mean, I have family members that are older, and I don't judge them for not understanding tech. I don't think your lack of understanding of how a computer works determines your intelligence. I think that that's a very stupid place to be. If you believe that, I think you need to really check yourself, because I think the lack of understanding of technology does not determine how intelligent a person is, and it's not a healthy mentality to have. I think you're going to really, really go through some pains and hurts in life if that's what you think. And I think you need to really check yourself before you wreck yourself, in all honesty. But I have family members that send me articles and links from social media all the time that get confused when something isn't when they read a news article and they don't realize that the news article is not only fake, but it's meant to be fake. It's satire. and I have to sit there and explain it to them. And they're like, how do you know this? And you have to go through all of that. Or you get a news article that's only just getting clicks. It's just designed to get clicks, or it's an ad or something to get all these weird things that I keep getting sent by family members. And we're still dealing with that. And these are family members who vote, family members who work in society. Some of them have really high successful jobs, some of them have regular jobs, and I still hear about that. I have friends in the same boat. So we still deal with that as a whole. And you can sit there and tell me that the younger generation better understands this stuff, but I'm getting to a place now where I don't fully believe that anymore. I really don't. I don't fully believe that the younger generation better understands this stuff. I'm thinking the younger generation is so accustomed to this stuff that they've become numb to it, and there's a danger there. I'm not going to say, I'm going to blanket statement this. I don't want a blanket statement, but there definitely are many of them who are not being educated on how this stuff operates. They don't have a big enough concern for it. And so they just use it and base a lot of their viewpoints around it. And that's a dangerous place to be in, because you could sit there and say, well, yeah, as you get older, you'll learn more. But I don't think that's the case. I don't think there's enough evidence in history to show that as those people got older, their mindsets about it changed. This is not I think if you're interested in something and you want to learn, you'll learn it. If you don't, you won't. That's just simply what it is. Other expert witnesses, like former New York University professor Gary Marcus, are expected to take a more measured stance toward the technology and warn of a recent rise in potentially dangerous AI hype. Marcus urged lawmakers Tuesday to approach AI safety with a profound sense of urgency and warn them against repeating the same mistakes they made in failing to regulate social media years ago. Yeah. We're facing a perfect storm of corporate irresponsibility, widespread deployment, lack of adequate regulation, and inherent unreliability, Marcus said during the hearing. Marcus and Altman were joined by IBM Chief Privacy and Trust Officer Christina Montgomery, who urged lawmakers against regulating AI as a technology and advised lawmakers to instead consider regulating particularly harmful use cases of the tech. That might be the way to go. I don't know. This thing is such a rapid. This thing is so rapidly growing. It's not going to happen. Like, there's just no way. They're not going to be able to keep up with it. And just based on what I saw from those video clips of them questioning Mark Zuckerberg, it's like, I doubt these people. I mean, I'm not even paying attention to it, but I doubt that there's going to be any real decent conversation. I mean, there might be some, but it's going to be outweighed by a lot of silliness. AI will come for jobs, but how much? All three of the witnesses speaking on Tuesday agreed AI could disrupt and transform the workplace, but the extent and time frame of those changes were a matter of debate. Altman said he believed his products and other AI services would have a significant impact on jobs, but noted it's unclear exactly how that will play out. For now, Altman said GPT-4, OpenAI's latest large language model, and other AI systems excel at completing tasks but are not as proficient at completing full jobs. I believe there will be far greater jobs on the other side of this, he said. I think that there's going to be certain jobs, very specified jobs, where if there was 2 staff members required to do the job, it may go down to 1 staff member if the company is embracing of the tech and of the tool. And that's a key figure right there. These numbers that they're spitting out, because he says here, Marcus went a step further and said artificial general intelligence could threaten most jobs. That day, however, could be as far as 50 years away. I think that date determines culturally how quickly or the lack of speed at which most of these companies and organizations either embrace the tool or reject the tool. And that's really what it's going to come down to. I think there's going to be a lot of people that reject it simply because they don't understand it. And there's a lot of hype around the dangers of it. And then, obviously the talking about the dangers of it gets more clicks. I totally understand that. You got to do what you got to do. And it's not like the dangers aren't real. Is it overhyped? It could be to a sense and to a degree. Typically when you're trying to predict stuff like this in the history of all the predictions we've seen of people talking about what's going to happen, it always takes a form of its own. It's impossible to predict how it takes effect. I think, with social media and the way things and the effect that social media has had on things like elections, on things like news cycles, on things like important information that sways massive regulatory decisions that are being made, there is definitely potential here for this to do that or do it on another level. We may not even be able to see what's going to happen here yet. And I think there's a lot of chips in that basket. There's no way to tell how this is going to affect certain markets because there's no way to tell what update will come out next and what it'll look like and what will happen. I mean, I've heard the CEO of OpenAI talking about, the desire to eventually one day actually have like an iRobot situation where they take the Chat GPT model and they input it into an actual, robot that's in your home walking around and talking to you. So that's just so bizarre. And if that's the direction it's going in, there's no telling what that will do. I mean, that's an insane thing to think about. So, we all saw that movie with Will Smith and how that ended. So Altman voices support for a new agency to monitor AI. Altman and Marcus, who at times clashed during the hearing, came out united on the idea of a new government agency staffed by AI experts. That's what I told you guys earlier. The hypothetical agency of AI experts would be tasked with monitoring the text development and setting standards around its use. When questioned by South Carolina Senator Lindsey Graham, Altman said he would support a government agency capable of both granting AI companies operating licenses and taking those licenses away if the company has violated standards. He'd support that if they, if they could even properly formulate it. If they, he supports it if he supports an agency capable of having that kind of power, but he really knows that they're not going to be able to. In order to formulate an agency such as that, you have to. There's so many what ifs about this that they can't move too fast. Like they don't even know what they're regulating. There's no telling what it is they're even regulating. What are you regulating? I mean, there's certain basic things that it's like, yeah, we shouldn't allow the thing to do this, but they don't even know the effect this is going to have. What exactly are you regulating? Are you regulating someone getting on a generative AI model and asking it questions and conversating with it and using it to generate some sort of script? I mean, what exactly are you regulating? I mean, and really the focus on something like that would probably be more generated or more focused on videos and images. And for him to say like, oh, the hype over it is like Photoshop on steroids, people eventually got used to it. Man, you can't relating it to Photoshop. It's like, yeah, there's some similarities, but that doesn't mean it's exactly the same. This has a lot more weight to it. It has a lot more weight to it because this is a very powerful technology that he's developed or that his company has developed. And there's a lot more at stake here with misuse of the product. So this is a very, very complicated situation to be in. And I'm not sure where I lean on it. There's days where I wake up and I feel like it's the end of the world. And then there's days where I wake up and I'm like, it's not that big of a deal. People are using it. And it depends on who you talk to. I've had some people that work in these different tech sectors like Microsoft and all that have said to me that they are utilizing the tool and everyone likes the tool, but there's no real fear of what the tool will become. And I think that comes from an understanding of what the tool is and an understanding of the limitations of that tool, and that all those people in that sector understand why the limitations are there. So that is a very different culture than your run-of-the-mill company who fully embraces it and doesn't fully understand it, or rejects it completely and doesn't fully understand it. Or, you hand it off to a kid who doesn't fully understand what it is they're looking into, what they're reading, and all this kind of stuff. There's so many different variations of this. And my takeaway from the whole thing is the best thing that I can do at this moment is talk to my children, tell my children about the tool, laugh at how fun it is, help them to understand and use it, because it's going to become a big thing. This is becoming a thing. There's no way to get away from it. And I'm not one to sit here and say, well, my kids will never use AI. I think my kids can use AI, but they have to use it healthily, and they have to understand that the boundaries and the limitations that we practice with it. Because it's not going to always give you the best answer, the most reliable answer, or it's not going to always be the most effective tool. Sometimes human touch is more important, and sometimes we need to take that information and use it. And there's been a lot of use cases I've already had with it where I'm using it to create corporate documents, and I'm like, well, the way it worded this is really weird. I'm going to change this. So it's not perfect every time. And the way it did this, I don't agree with this. And you change. So there still is a need for a person to be at the helm. And I think that there will always be a need for a person to be at the helm. And so will it replace some jobs? I think it won't necessarily replace jobs. I could eat my words on this, as much as it will cause a lack of a need for companies to look to employ more jobs. So in a sense, it will change the market in that jobs, not a lot of jobs will go away necessarily, but a lot of jobs will never come to fruition. Because, like I said, you'll have a job, you'll have a task or a project that will typically take 2 staff members, and they may be able to accomplish it now with 1 staff member because of this setup. So I think that's what we're possibly looking at. I'm shooting hypotheticals. Don't take my word for it. I'm just talking. I mean, I don't fully understand the stuff myself. I'm only seeing what I'm seeing here on these news articles and hearing from friends that I have in the marketplace that are experiencing it. I've got some friends that are actually in tech startups right now, having conversations with investors, trying to raise capital, and I just hear from them how their organizations are utilizing these tools and the conversations that they're having with other people, and I'm piecing that kind of conversation together. What I do know is that this group of people, these government lawmakers, are going to do absolutely nothing to help the situation, and this is all a dog and pony show. That I think all of us can agree on. So hopefully you guys enjoyed the content. Let me know your thoughts on this in the comment section below. Please like, share, subscribe. All that stuff really helps the channel. I thank you guys so much for taking the time to do that. I really appreciate it, and I will catch you in the next one.